you there? Oh, no, no, maybe not. I think that might be taking it a little bit too far. Maybe this is enough. I don't know why I've got so excited. No, no, yes, I do. It's that time of year again. It is time to play the pirate game because it's the end of term and it's the best end of term game out there. So I'm getting ready to play it with a range of children from the ages of 7 to 11 in the next 2 weeks. And I've made a PowerPoint to show them how to play the game. And I've also done a little bit of redesigning of the original game by Mr. Collins, which you can download from TES, just to make it a little bit more primary friendly. So I'm going to share that with you. And if you would like a copy of the PowerPoint or the game boards, then please do get in touch. Head over to Curious Maths on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, and I'll happily share you a copy. This is the PowerPoint that I've made for the children. Now, the first couple of slides are aimed at the teachers, so skip past these once you've read the notes, and then you can use the rest of the PowerPoint with the children. So just to say again, this is an adaptation of the Pirate Game by Mr. Collins, and the things that I've changed for those of you that are familiar with the game is that I've reduced the coordinate grid size because it's originally a 7 by 7 and it takes ages. So I've just reduced it to a 6 by 6 grid. I think that will help with time. I've replaced the kill and the bomb items just because I prefer something a bit more positive or a more positive terminology. And I've also replaced the coins with money. I've created 2 different versions of the game. One I think is more suited for years 3 and 4, so 7 to 9-year-olds, and then one for years 5 and 6, which is 9 to 11-year-olds. So the main difference is, because they are basically the same game, is that the years 3 and 4, I've used letters and numbers for the coordinate placements. And then in years 5 and 6, I've used numbers and numbers to fit in with the national curriculum for England. The only other change, I think, is that the years 5 and 6, the money's bigger, so there's more to calculate. So you can use this PowerPoint with the whole of Key Stage 2, so 7 to 11-year-olds, but you will need to delete the appropriate slides depending on which year group you're going to focus on. Here are a few things to consider before you play this game with your class. Who calls out the coordinates? Well, I tend to lead from the front. I certainly start the game off. And because there's a C icon available, and that's the one where children get to choose the next square, I think it's a really good balance between me leading it and them getting involved too, but also keeping the flow of the game. So that's kind of up to you. Another question I get asked a lot is, do you let the children play individually or in pairs? My favourite's pairs. I think it's great for discussion, but both work well. A little tip that I've picked up is put a copy of the grid up on the big smartboard so that you can cross the squares off as you select them. That just makes sure that everyone's crossing off the same grid, but also helps you keep track. And you could also do this by just using a game board yourself and crossing them off. And the final thing I think to be aware of is you need plenty of time. So I have reduced the coordinate grid to show 6 by 6 instead of 7 by 7. I think that will make a great big difference. But realistically, you probably need about 2 hours to play this game. I usually start the game off by introducing it and getting the children to draw their icons and their money on the grid, perhaps before playtime, and then come back after playtime and give it a good go. But I must admit, there's been plenty of occasions where that has had to be carried on after lunch. So just make sure you've got enough time to play it. So the next slides are the ones you'll be wanting to share with the children. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty how to play. So teams of 2 and 1 coordinate grid between that pair. So the children fill in the grid with the icons that are on the game board, but also all the money options that they have to use as well. And once the grid is filled, you start playing the game. So the way I do it is I start off and I read a coordinate out. The children look on their grid to see what money or which icon has been placed there. So if it's money, they simply record it in the cash box. But if it's an icon and one of the ones with a star next to it on the game board, then they need to put their hand up. And they have to put their hand up because this will have a direct impact on the rest of the group. You go through those children with their hands up, you do the icons, and then it just repeats itself. So then I would choose another coordinate and we go through the process again. And the winner is the team at the end of the game who has the most money. And the game can kind of end at any point, really. So as I've mentioned, it is quite a long game. So I tend to sort of gauge when the children are ready to stop, or I give them a bit of advance warning. So we're going to read out 4 more coordinates and then we will be at the end of the game. This is the Pirate game board, and this is the one that I've designed for children in years 3 and 4, so ages between 7 and 9. And the purpose of this slide really is to take children through the game board, get them familiar with it, and so they can get a bit of a picture of what the game is all about. So the way I've designed it is a statement comes up and then an arrow pointing to the right part. And I don't go into too much detail here because the next couple of slides will be on each of the icons. So I get a chance to talk about them more a little bit later. But it's still really handy to navigate the board and get an idea of where they need to put things. So some of the icons have stars next to them, and that's really important to explain to the children. Because if I call a coordinate which has an icon with a star next to it, then they have to put their hand up. And the reason they have to put their hand up is because this has an action attached to it and it may affect, or well, it will affect some other children in the room. Down the bottom of the game board, you can see the monetary values. And once the children have put their icons in, they then fill the rest of the squares with their money. And as you can see, there's a lot of them. So by the time they've done all that, their whole grid will be filled. As the game goes along and they collect cash, this is where they put the recording of their cash. And if they get the bank icon, this is where they write the amount that they bank. Now, once it's in the bank, it's safe, but there is a little bit of a drawback that you can't double those points. If you do get a ×2 double points icon, then I'm afraid it doesn't work for the bank amount. So pros and cons, but at least it means nobody else can steal it. Now here, I encourage children to write their watch list, and their watch list is names of the children that they might like to steal from, or halve their score, or swap their score. So they need to be really mindful of what everyone else is doing in this game, not just themselves. So as they notice somebody gets double points, or if they notice somebody's got a present, they might write their names down so that when they get the chance to swap scores or steal someone's money, it'll be those people that they choose. These two boxes here are for the shield and the mirror. And these two icons are really important because they're like protection icons. So once you call the square out and a child has got a shield or a mirror, what they need to do is they need to draw a picture of it in those boxes there. And they can use the shield or the mirror at any time during the game, but they can only use it once. So if they use the shield, they will block the badge. Once they've used it, they have to cross it out. So it can only be used once. And that's quite an important point to emphasize with the children. We talked about the game board. Now it's time to think about the icons. And this is an opportunity to talk about them in a little bit more detail with the children, but also to give them a chance to ask any questions they've got. The key icon. Now this one is a key to a treasure chest. So with that key, you can steal someone else's money. So if you call out a coordinate and the pair has that icon on that square, then they need to put their hand up and they can choose another pair to steal from. Be ready for the chaos. To balance that, we have give a present. So the present icon means that if that square is called, the pair put their hand up and they can choose another pair and gift them £200. The half icon is about halving another pair's score. So if that square is called out, the pair need to put up their hand and they can select another pair to halve their score. And we all know parrots like to repeat themselves. So this is about repeating the last action. So the pair need to put up their hand and whatever happened last time happens again. And of course, this could be good, like being gifted £200, or this could be bad, like somebody halving your money. The icon arrows are all about swapping scores. So once again, because it's got a star next to it, the pair need to put their hand up and they can choose another pair to swap scores with. Now this is great when it comes to the hit list because hopefully they'll have a couple of names down there that they can choose from. The C icon means that pair are in charge. So they get to choose the next coordinate on the grid. This is a very popular square because it's their opportunity to take a bit of control of the game. Because it's got a star next to it, the children need to put their hand up because it affects the rest of the group. The pirate ship icon is one to be avoided because if this square gets called out, then your total amount goes back to 0. If you've banked some money, that's safe, but otherwise you're back to 0. The shield is a protection icon and is really quite strategic. So when that square gets called out, the pair need to draw the shield into the box and they just leave it there until they want to use it. So they use it to block any bad. So that might just be another square is called out and they have to halve their money, anything they like. but they can only use it once. And once they've used it, they need to cross it out. The mirror is very similar actually to the shield, except that it reflects back the wrongdoing, so can only be used when another pair sends something bad over to you. Now, it can only be used once and it needs to be crossed out, but this is a very strategic icon and actually often gets lots of whoops of joy when children realize that they can use it. The double your money icon is quite straightforward, so the children don't need to put their hand up, but if you call out that square, then they look in their cash box and they double the amount they've got. And the B is for bank the money. So at that point, the pair write all of their money into the bank box and it's now safe. Now, they can't take the money out of the bank once it's there, but no other player can steal that money. The only real disadvantage is that if they get the double your money icon after the bank icon, they can't double the money in the bank. It's just safe money, but it can't be touched. These are the amounts of each denomination that the pairs need to put into their grid at the very beginning after they've put their icons in. Sometimes find it's important to go through this slide with the children and really emphasize how much of each one they need to put in, but also to remind them that once they've put them all in, the grid should be full. And if it isn't, they've made a mistake somewhere. So these are the amounts that I use for the year 3 and 4 game board. And there's another slide which you can hide to use for the 5 and 6. And these have got larger money amounts. But the last thing that I like to do is go through the coordinates and just make sure that the children that I'm working with know how to read the coordinate grid. And this example is from the year 3 and 4 game grid. And then this example is for the year 5 and 6. So as you can see, the last one I used letters and numbers, but for the year 5 and 6 grid, I've gone for numbers and numbers so that they can actually use coordinates and the comma and the brackets. And then finally, I just go through some overarching rules and things I want them to consider before they go wild playing the game. So just reminding them that it's a strategic game and that both of their views matter in the pair to make sure they work nicely together. A real clear guidance on the fact that it really benefits to listen and watch what the other players are doing. So whilst it could be a really noisy, rowdy game, to be the most effective, it needs to be quite quiet, so that they can actually get a handle on what's going on, and that will inform their decisions moving forward. You do have to talk about cheating, I think. I always bring it up. So, just making it really clear that no cheating, even if it means you don't win. And then finally, just a reminder that stay positive for this game because you never know what's around the corner. And the twists and turns that I've had over the years have been amazing. Children who thought they were never going to win the game coming through and winning it. So, just giving them that little bit of positivity. So now you're ready to play the pirate game, the best end of term game ever. I hope you have great fun with your class. If you'd like a copy of my PowerPoint and my game boards, then head over to Curious Maths on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Send me a message with your email and I'll happily send it over. Have a great rest of the term.